And welcome back for your second daily debrief of the Paramedic AF show. As you can see and hear, hopefully, audio is finally better after a lot of hard work and a lot of frustration and a lot of irritation and failed takes. We figured that the microphones were the common denominator problem, and we figured out how to make these microphones work with our new software so that we can do all of this smoothly now. So, thank God we got that fixed and we don't have to deal with that drama anymore. So, I wanted to today kind of focus a little more narrowly than we did in the first episode. The first daily debrief talked about the industry as a whole. Well, I want to talk about individual providers. Something that I have seen over the years is people feeling that they're stuck in this job, that they don't have. Ultimately, what it comes down to is they don't have the future that they want. They got into this job thinking, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to love it. I'm never going to get tired of it ever. And guess what? It happens. And a lot of times, it's not even that people don't want to do the job anymore, but they want some of the circumstances to change. So maybe they're looking more at how can I get a promotion, or what is another job that uses my skill set that I can go do. And unfortunately, especially in 911, I would say, but across the board as an industry, we just don't have a lot of good upward mobility options. And we also don't do a good job at defining how you move up. It's very secret sauce voodoo, like there's not really a set standard that EMS agencies consistently use to promote people. It's very much, well, how do you feel about that person? How were they the lesser of, however many evils of people that applied? And you're left with a lot of less than desirable options, because a lot of times the really good people who would have been perfect for the job weren't given a pathway to get it. And so we tend to overlook, in general, the really good, really strong candidates because they haven't been set up to succeed and move up the ladder. So you have that aspect of this where people want to move up, but they feel like they can't because there's no clear direction up. But you also have people who feel very stuck because they got into this job, they were excited about it, they loved it, it all the variety tickled their fancy, and then 5, 10, 20 years later, they realize, hey, I don't enjoy this anymore. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But they feel like they don't have a lot of good options. I was very much in this situation. And I mean, my attitude towards EMS has morphed a little bit over time, but I did hit a point where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So then I looked at, okay, well, what about nursing school? At the time, there was like one program left that would do a bridge from an associate's degree paramedic, which I am, to an ADN. And so I was like, okay, cool, maybe that'll work. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, the things that I'm unhappy about right now would not get any better there. I'd still be low on the continuum of care totem pole. I'd be getting paid more, but I'd be getting paid more to do a lot of extra shit and still not have a lot of the same rewards that I was wanting out of life. So yeah, you technically get more money, but you get more money to be just as miserable, in my opinion, for me personally. Now, it's not the case for everybody. So, but I think a lot of people are stuck in that conundrum where they feel like, well, if I want to get out of EMS, my only option is something in healthcare. And yes, we are very well adapted to transitioning to other parts of healthcare, where paramedics do really well going to respiratory therapy. We do very well as nurses. We do well as NPs, and especially higher level certifications, because that's what we do. We are used to being solo providers. We're used to being on our own, making decisions, and doling out responsibilities to other people. Even if you're an EMT, you're still used to a certain level of autonomy that you don't have in certain other comparable spheres of healthcare. So we do very well with those things. But for a lot of people, that's not really enough. And I've preached this for a long, long time. Paramedics and EMTs are perfectly suited to be entrepreneurs. Why? Because we are used to, even though we don't like change, we are used to adapting to things outside of our control. We're used to adapting to dynamic patients. We're used to adapting to dynamic scene safety situations. We're used to adapting to new technology, new protocols. And, well, I should say the folks who are conscientious about their job are good at that. The ones that aren't, they really aren't good at that. But those are all characteristics that lend themselves very well to the entrepreneurial space, because that's where you have to live. You have to live in constant uncertainty, constant change. Entrepreneurship, it's one of those things where, when you have a hourly paid job, you have job security, you're going to get a paycheck, but there's not a lot of incentive, unfortunately, to perform at a higher level, because you're going to get paid the same either way, which I think is a serious issue with EMS to begin with. I think that we do need to incentivize pay a little bit. I think that we need to go the extra mile and make sure that we're actually rewarding good behavior, good clinical decision making. But that aside, in entrepreneurship, you trade that stability for freedom. You are free to do what you want. You work for yourself. You make things happen in your own time, at your own pace, and there's no upward ceiling on what you can make. See, if you're in an hourly job position, or even a salaried position, there's caps on how much money you can make. Eventually, you hit that upper limit, and that's all you can do. But when you branch out, you work for yourself, you take those risks, you do the work to actually make sure that you have a viable business that you can scale appropriately, then suddenly sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. You can reach for the stars and actually go get them. You can't really do that in EMS. So my encouragement to a lot of you, and we could go on for a lengthy conversation about all the different business realms that paramedics would be able to thrive in. But the long story short is, you can do well in other things. It's very easy to feel stuck, to feel like this is all you've ever known. And it's easier to stay miserable in something that's familiar than it is to risk breaking everything for the chance to have a life that you want, to be fulfilled the way you want. That's a very scary trade-off, and a lot of people are just not willing to do that. They would much rather stay where they are. And that is where you start to see a lot of people, even good people, start to get complacent, because they don't feel like it's worth it to try and leave, but they don't want to put in the effort that's required for staying. It's no different than a relationship that is dealing with issues. It's easier to sweep the issues under the rug, ignore it, and just maintain what you've been doing than it is to actually take the initiative, do the hard work, risk breaking the relationship with the end goal of making it better and getting to a better place. So, and I think that's reflective in a lot of our relationships in EMS, because a lot of them tend to suck. And which I fall back on, well, the common denominator in everybody's bad relationship history is themselves. There's nobody else they have that in common with. So anyway, that's a side note. It's okay to feel stuck, but don't wallow in it. And for those of you who are feeling stuck, I guess the number one takeaway from this discussion that I would love for you to have is, go out and and read and listen. Read books that are not EMS related, that have nothing to do with healthcare, that will get your brain spinning into other gears and exploring other things. Listen to podcasts, not just the Paramedic AF show, but there are so many tools out there, so many podcasts that are run by people who are successful by, in by tangible measurements. They have made an impact in the world. They have made money. They are doing well for themselves. They are achieving their goals. Those are successful people. And many of them are just giving away the information like, hey, here you go. Here's how you do it. And everybody keeps waiting for like a secret, like there's some secret. And some people put up a paywall and say, well, you can only get the secret if you pay to be part of this. And okay, that's usually a snake oil salesman, to be completely honest. The people who are actually successful, the only paywall they have is access to them directly. If you want this person to mentor you, then okay, yes, you have to pay a pretty penny. But if you just want to hear what they have to say, if you want to learn the principles from them that you then take and internalize and apply to your life, that shit's out there for free. Or you can go buy books by these people, and in which is nothing in the grand scheme of things as far as cost. So start, and I have you, and I think I've talked about this before. Have you ever noticed how when you buy a car, suddenly you see that car everywhere? That you can't not see it all the time. Well, it's not like a bunch of people just decided to get that car at the same time. Those cars were always there. You just weren't paying attention because you weren't looking for it. And I feel like opportunities in life are not there. They're just not being looked for. And when you start to shift your life to be aware of those things, to be aware of the opportunities that you actually want, then as time goes on, you start to see where those opportunities are. You start to latch onto them and realize, oh, okay, here they are. It's been sitting right in front of me the whole time. And that's called law of attraction. And there's a lot to that. That's a hour-long podcast on its own. There's books written on that, documentaries, what the fuck ever. But the principle is when you are positioning yourself to receive what you want, you'll eventually get it. But if you're not looking, if you're turning a blind eye to these opportunities because of cynicism and burnout and apathy and whatnot, then yes, of course you're going to be stuck. You're going to never move anywhere. And it's not like anybody who was successful in any way was special. Like, sure, there's some people that have unusual talent, but even those people, hard work beats talent every single day. And I don't just mean hard work like, oh, digging ditches and building bridges, but like actually applying yourself and doing difficult things to dig yourself out of where you are and to where you want to go. That will defeat talent in the end every single time. So don't be afraid of doing that work. If you're feeling stuck, whether it's you need to position yourself better to get a promotion where you are, and there's ethical ways to do that without, dick sucking and stepping on other people's shoulders. Or if you want to branch out into something different, you need to start shifting yourself, your identity, your mentality, how you think about things, how you live, to be in a position where those opportunities align with who you are and they're a natural next step rather than being something off in the distance that you can't see. So, number one takeaway, go do some reading, go listen to some podcasts. A wonderful book that I recommend to anybody who feels stuck, who wants to branch into the entrepreneurial world, is a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And I can never remember the name of the author to save my fucking life. It's not complicated. I can just never remember his name. But there's only one of those books. So you search Blue Ocean Strategy, you're going to find it. And yes, it's a dry read. It's very heady, but there is so much practical advice wrapped up in that book that is so invaluable to anybody who wants to go make an impact in the world. I cannot recommend it enough. It will change your life in a lot of ways if you're reading it intentionally. So open up your ears and eyes, listen, build a life that is actually built for opportunities, and take those opportunities when they come. That's all I got for you guys. Be safe. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye.